Hi everyone, I'm Ayesha Suhail, Manager Internal Communications at LCI, and we are back with another episode of Inside the Core. This is a very special episode. With a rich history of LCI, 80 splendid years, one can't help but wonder how many generations have contributed to its success. Today, we have the youngest part of that legacy, the management trainees of LCI. Today, we have with us Muhammad Momin, batch of 2023. Muhammad Momin is sales manager at Polyester Business. Then we have Ayesha Suhail from Animal Health Business. Then we have Ahmad Abid, Senior Product Manager of Pharmaceuticals Business. Hello everyone, how are you guys doing?
We're doing
Very
great.
good.
We're doing
Okay,
great.
excited to dive into the conversation?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so before we start with anything else, I'm sure that the audience would want to know you guys better. Who are you guys outside of work? We'll start with you, Moment.
So if I'm going to describe myself outside of work, I think usme I have a couple of things.
ठीक है.
The first of that would be I'm a sports person. I really enjoy sports. I play
Oh, that's
all sort of
nice.
sports, tennis, cricket, paddle, all sort of sports. I just love sports.
Okay.
Outside of that, I love traveling. So
Same.
I've been to a lot of places in Pakistan. Now, obviously, I aim to go to places abroad as well. But I love traveling as a whole. I just love traveling. And apart from that, I'm a very social person. So I have a lot of friends. I love to go out, hang out, and meet with
Okay.
them. So that's, I think, a good description of how I am outside of work.
And where was your childhood? Like, where did you?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Lahore. I
Acha,
was
sahi.
through and through throughout
Lahori at
Lahori at heart. Same school, same city. I've been a Lahori at heart.
Okay, that's so nice.
Yeah.
What about you, Aisha?
So, outside of work, I would describe myself as someone who really enjoys new and different type of experiences,
Okay.
and which includes meeting new people, traveling a lot, and I'm also a very extroverted person. So I also have a couple of friends, and that takes up most of my time. So I'm usually very occupied with them, and I really like to go to new places as well, like trying out new restaurants, new coffee shops.
Are you a foodie also?
Yes, I am.
Oh, Zabardast. And what about your childhood roots?
I would say that I am a Lahori, but I've lived in different cities of
Okay, there's a
Pakistan.
but.
Yes. So because of constant relocation, we had to shift cities. So I've lived in Sindh, Punjab, Central, all over the Pakistan.
So you have the cultural diversity
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
Oh, that's so nice. What about you, Ahmed?
Okay, so in my case too, I feel like sports has always been a very integral part of my overall life. And that has been the case since childhood. And that is something I've tried to continue even after stepping into the corporate world. So right now, I am a huge fan of playing paddle and swimming because, that really helps me unwind after a long day at work. Because I feel like if you're following a 9 to 5 routine on a daily basis, then, you need something which can help you reset. And for that, sports does that for me.
Okay. And what about your childhood? Where did you grow up?
Okay, so I was born and raised in Lahore, completed my schooling, my college, and undergraduate from there as well. So yeah, I would also say that I'm a proper Lahori at heart.
Okay, yes, you miss Lahore, right?
100%.
Okay, Zabardast. All right. So with this, we'll switch to our next segment. And for the first question that I would want you guys to answer would be, let's go back a little to the beginning. जब आप लोगों की journey LCI में start हुई थी, what's the one thing I want you guys to go one by one? What's the one thing that you remember from the first time that you applied and by the time that you actually joined LCI? Moment आपसे start करते हैं.
I think the first, because at that time I remember the recruitment time was very intensive because when we were in our senior years, अब हम हर जगह apply करते थे तो, and we used to the first thing was हम लोग after the initial exam, after the initial test जो होता था, उसके बाद once we had our interviews, then what I used to do was I used to rigorously research the company and the person who was going to interview me.
Yeah.
So I needed to know a lot about the person and about the company because I always thought that this always gave a really good impression on on the interviewer कि आपको company के बारे में भी पता है And if you know something that's not really general knowledge, यानी आपको for example मुझे कुछ companies के जिन साथ मैं इंटरव्यू था मुझे उनके market shares का idea था तो this was certain information जो आपको अपने पास रखनी चाहिए और जो मैं भी उस time रखता था which makes you click या which makes you stand
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
So I think वो था कि you should be
So
well
you must have
researched.
researched about LCI as well.
Yeah, exactly. About LCI and about the interviewer. ताकि आपकी conversation उस तरह हो because they need to know that you came in prepared.
Yeah. So Aisha, you tell me what's the thing that you remember from the applying process and how was the journey from actually applying to joining LCI?
About this, I would say that since it's been relatively very new,
Yeah.
it's not been long since I've joined.
Yeah.
So I remember every step of this applying process
Okay.
very clearly, from the initial game-based assessment to the second round of interviews and then the interviews with the final presentation. So it's all very clear to me. But I would say that the whole process was very smooth. And it had shorter time periods between each rounds in LCI as compared to other companies which had a lot of waiting time. So overall, this whole process was really smooth and ended up really, you're going into the next rounds really soon. So that really helps when the situation at that point you're really tense about, getting a call every day or a message or an email.
Yeah.
So really looking forward to it. The good part was that you, from LCI, you got them relatively quicker than other companies. And from the joining, I would say that the onboarding was so smooth and so enjoyable that I would say my highlight of joining LCI is the orientation week that we had. And it was a very good mix of learning and connecting with the fellow MTs at that time, going to different locations, understanding people, understanding the businesses. So it was absolutely the highlight of LCI recruitment process for me.
And also the company is so vast.
Yes.
That you get to see so much in your orientation week.
Yeah.
That it really becomes very interesting for you from the start of your journey here. Okay, Amit, what about you?
Okay, so Adiha, as far as I can remember, I think it was a very rigorous process, at least it felt like that at that time. There was an online assessment followed by multiple rounds of interviews with the senior leadership, followed by a detailed case study round. I really felt like that entire process, it tested you from different angles. But the good thing is once I ended up joining LCI, the onboarding process was extremely smooth and fun at the same time. Like you said earlier that, LCI has a massive footprint across Pakistan. So we had the opportunity of visiting different local and regional offices of LCI. हमने plant visits किए, फिर हमने कुछ field visits भी किए, जिसमें we actually got to interact with people who actually, work in the field.
And this you did in the very start of your...
Yep. That onboarding process spread across 1 week basically. तो उसमें उन्होंने काफ़ी ज़्यादा चीज़ें cover की थी, and we also got to interact with heads of different businesses along with the CEO, which in itself was a very rewarding experience. So I think ये जो पूरा इनका onboarding process था, इसने जो हमारी transition थी, from being a student in a university to actually stepping into the corporate world, उसको काफ़ी ज़्यादा आसान बना दिया.
So one thing I wanted to ask from you guys was कि जब हम classrooms में होते हैं, there are different things that we learn. But what's the one thing, one habit that you picked up from here and no classroom could have taught you guys? We'll start with you, Ayesha.
I would say that people management is absolutely something that I learned in LCI. So when you're in your universities, in your O&A levels, you're too focused on yourself. Like my assignments should be done, my projects should be done. But in LCI, I have learned that every person has a very different way of communicating. You have to understand what perspectives they are coming from, what they want you to do. Their levels of understanding and your levels of communication should match. So to get the most out of it, I think it's, getting to communication and getting to know better.
All right. Okay, great. Momin, what about you?
I think similar to what I just said, internal stakeholder management would probably be the thing that I've picked up from here that you don't really get to learn in university, because you're working with so many different teams and so many different people. You need to know how to interact with each of them. You need to, because if those people, if they respect you, if they have a good relationship with you, then work will be easy. And you'll get more done, your workforce will be more efficient. So I think that's a skill that we don't really learn at university. we don't come in the corporate world with those skills, but once you dive in, once you have to do it, then I think you develop that skill, and it's very helpful. I think it's
And I
very
think
helpful.
LCI is a great place to learn that, because we have 5 different businesses with each of them has an own world of theirs, right? So people working over in different kind of businesses, you have to deal with them. Internal stakeholder management is absolutely essential over there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I completely agree with you. What about you, Emma?
Okay, so Adiha, in my case, I think one key habit that I've picked up is working towards a shared goal. And this is something which Ayesha touched upon earlier as well, कि जब हम यूनिवर्सिटी में होते हैं तो हमारे जितने भी गोल्स होते हैं they are extremely individualistic. आपका क्या गोल होता है कि मुझे अपने एग्जाम्स के ऊपर अच्छा ग्रेड चाहिए, मुझे एक अच्छा CGPA चाहिए, आपके कोई कलेक्टिव गोल्स नहीं होते. But once you actually step into the corporate world, you start to realize that success is very much collaborative. You can't have individuals working in silos, जिसमें हर कोई अपने एक अलग goals लेके चल रहा है, because that might lead to something in the short run, but long term that is not sustainable at all. So I feel like that mindset shift is something which no classroom could have prepared me for.
So while we are on the subject of culture, I do want to ask you about work-life balance. So obviously, you guys being young, there is a generational shift in corporate as well, right? I want to know, what is work-life balance to you and how you see it being integrated in your life.
Okay, so I think it goes without saying that work-life balance is extremely important. I wouldn't exactly call it a deal breaker, but at the same time, priority list में second या third number के ऊपर आता है ये, whenever you're looking up a company. And at the same time, like I said earlier, कि अगर आप 9 to 5 की routine follow कर रहे हो day in day out, तो आपको after your work hours आपको कोई एक escape चाहिए, right? ताकि आप unwind कर सको and you can come back stronger the next day. So, taking all of this into account, I really feel lucky to be working at an organization such as LCI, because, like I said earlier, LCI really puts passion for people, as one of its foremost priorities. So, usme they do know how to take care of you, and they make sure that, whatever work that you're doing, it never gets too exhausting.
So as we are talking about trust and that kind of space where your managers are like, okay, you do this, you have this responsibility, go ahead and work your magic. Tell me about mentorship. Like, who are your mentors? Are there any? What do you want to say about that? Ayesha, batao.
When you're a fresh graduate, and if there's a missing link between someone to guide you and it's not there, that you're already feeling really overwhelmed in the start of your job, and if that mentor is missing, that really puts a burden on you. And that is why I think it's like a key element to having a good corporate life, is that there should be someone to guide you in places and walk you through the certain steps and educating you on things that are not your daily routine, especially if a business is really technical. So I would say that my mentors have been very approachable, very supportive. And since my business is very technical and I don't have that certain knowledge, they've really put in the effort to break down things to my level, to make me understand the way I would understand. And they never just throw information to me and let me figure it out on my own. They usually keep in a feedback system where they're asking me constantly if I understand everything, if I'm meeting the specific tasks that I'm supposed to do. So they're always like really helpful and genuinely caring.
Okay. So, Momin, similar to Ahmed, your role has also evolved. What's the one thing that you really had to adapt very quickly when you stepped up?
Yeah, so I think this is pretty recent as well, so I remember this quite vividly. In the recent past, I got a lot of more ownership and a lot more responsibility in terms of the customers, in terms of the department. So I got to experience handling or taking on the responsibility for the whole sales department along with obviously my manager. But that experience really shaped me because it forced me to step up, and I didn't really have, even if I didn't want to, I didn't have an option. So I think this is a sort of experience which really it gives you pride in yourself as well. Once
Yeah.
you come out of it, once you know that you can do it, you get to push your limits, you get to know what you can achieve. And once I got through that phase, I think you feel good about yourself as well.
Yeah. So, Aisha, you are from the fresh batch of management trainee program, and you are currently going through rotations, right? Tell me about that experience and why do you think that's important?
I think my experience is going really well. It's going
Okay.
really smooth. And I'm actually really enjoying being parts of
Okay.
different teams every couple of months.
Yeah.
So I think it's really valuable element of MT program because it really gives you insights into different businesses, helps you interact with different type of people, get to know what those specific different type of people are doing, which collectively makes up a very running business. And also I think in the very start as a fresh graduate, you're still exploring your strengths, what do you like to do, and work wise where do you fit in better. So I think a shift and a rotation throughout the departments really helps you to understand where your strengths lie.
So, in this segment, we will reflect upon your experiences that you have already shared. Based on them, I'll ask one question and you can answer me one by one. Okay. What is one thing you know that you wish your day one self knew? Aisha.
Not to overthink too much.
Okay, Ahmad.
Okay, so I think one thing which I eventually, learned was that, you need to be able to make a quick course correction. What I feel like as humans, it is perfectly okay for us to, drift
Make
off at
mistakes.
times. But, the sooner you take that course correction, the sooner you will be back on your normal
Smart.
track.
Moment.
Yeah, I think having work friendships will take you a long way. That's probably the first thing that I always had a barrier. I was thought we should have a barrier making friends at work, but I think the friends that I've made at work have really they've added a lot of value to my work life.
Okay. What is something newer trainees are doing differently that you have learned from? Moment.
I think they're very, very swift in getting clarity, so they know what they want and they're pretty clear about stating it. So they get their clarity pretty quick, which is good.
Okay.
I think the new trainees are very good at AI agents. They have an AI agent for every single situation.
Say it. What about you?
Okay, so I agree with Momin 100%. One thing that I find particularly inspiring about them is their clear sense of clarity. They know what they want out of life and they know how to get there. And, if I compare that to myself, when I initially, entered the corporate world, then, I did a lot of experimenting. And with a lot of experimenting, you eventually, figure out what works best for you. So yeah, that clear sense of clarity is something which I find particularly inspiring from them.
Okay. Quickly answer one piece of work that you are proud of that you have done here. Aisha.
I recently ended a project for my marketing rotation. So it was a project that had not been done in a long while and it was a new contribution to my business. So
That must be so rewarding for
it
you.
was, and my manager was actually very helpful and appreciative of it as well.
That's a nice moment.
I think managing the whole work of the whole sales department from A to Z that I've done in the recent past, that's been the highlight of my career.
Okay. Ahmed.
Okay, so in my case, I think making dashboards in order to help out the entire marketing department, not just myself.
Yeah.
That has been something which I'm extremely proud of.
All right. So, in the end, now we are going to close our podcast episode. I have a few questions for you. This one is for all of you that looking back, how did the LCI management training program shaped your career the way it is today and how it has shaped the work that you approach now?
Okay, so I think one extremely important thing that I learned during my management trainee program is that, the more work you do, the more projects that you take on, the more you'll eventually end up learning. And I feel like that is very important because, as part of the management trainee program, the LCI places a huge emphasis not just on your professional growth, but also on your personal growth as well.
Okay.
And more importantly, it provides you room and freedom to make mistakes. In your GR year, no one is expected to be perfect at every single thing they do. Instead, you are encouraged to take ownership and, learn from those mistakes and move on. So I feel like, that sort of really laid a solid foundation, for my long-term career growth at LCI.
Okay. How about you, Ayesha?
One thing that I've learned here is that growth is not only about technical knowledge and learnings about technical knowledge. It is also the way you communicate with people, the way you interact with them, the way you build relationships with others around you. So I think that these soft skills really improve the quality of your day-to-day lives and overall your career trajectory as well. Other than that, another very important thing I've learned here is that you have to be adaptable. Sometimes you might know all of the information about the business, but if you're not adapting to the real life situations that are thrown at you, then you might not be able to adjust better there. So
Yeah.
it's really important to be adaptable and approach the situation with an open heart.
So very wise. Okay, what about you?
Yeah, I think the MD program as a whole is a very good mix of being challenging and supportive at the same time. So that's probably the perfect mix to have. When I joined, obviously everything was new to me. So I was really in the beginning I was a little bit overwhelmed, but everyone was very supportive in guiding me and having a structured pathway because you know where you'll end up in a year and your growth trajectory. So that's something that's very helpful and gives you a comfort of mind as well that you're going in the right direction
Yeah.
as well in your career.
Thank you so much, guys. It has been an absolute pleasure having this conversation with you, and I hope that you guys excel at everything that you do here and onwards and upwards.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you
us.
Thank you
very
very much for
much.
having
It
us.
was a good time.
Yes, absolutely. With that, we wrap up our episode, but we will be back with many more stories from LCI. Till then, take care. Allah Hafiz.